Hey, what's going on everyone, and I am back again today for another Answering Your Overlord Questions video. The last one that I did was received very well by you guys, and I thank you for the support on that. And everyone seemed to like that video, liked me talking in this kind of very casual format and just answering the questions that you guys leave. And I have been working on my light novel differences video that I talked about in a post I posted a few weeks ago. I am almost done rereading volume 1 right now. I mean, it is a 300 and change page book here, guys. So I mean, and also the devil is in the details when it comes to the Overlord light novels. So I'm taking my time with it. I'm reading the book, I'm rewatching the episodes, and you know, that video is going to be very fun to make, and but I want it to be very good and comprehensive. So in the meantime, I wanted to make something else, and I thought following up on the well-received last video I made like this would be a good idea. So if you saw the first one, you know how this works. I'm just going to be going through the comment section, answering as many of your questions as I can before the video gets crazy long or before I get tired. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive in here. Here's a good one. I wonder if the Greed Kings were anyone Ainz knew from his guild, or maybe just other players in the game, since time is very clearly wibbly wobbly in their world. It would just be cool if Ainz gets to the floating castle and is like, oh snap, that's the one guild leader from so-and-so guild. So yeah, that would be interesting. And one of the theories that I have about how the timeline kind of worked with the transference of players to the new world. So what I think happened is that all the players were transported to the new world at the same time, and that's when the servers from Yggdrasil shut down. From how they were isekai'd, they were all scattered throughout the timeline of the new world. Ainz just so happened to be like the most recent player to be dropped in during this timeline. So by that theory, all the players that came before him were players that potentially they would know each other because they were all playing the game at the same time. Also, because of that theory, it's also possible for players to come after Ainz. This is all just a theory though, because we don't know real specifics on what the isekai method was. I would like to see some sort of like acknowledgement about who these players were from another player. That would be really cool though. Oh, this is something, I actually don't know this one. Didn't the author say that Ainz and the gang will be the last ones to come to the new world? I actually have no idea. I did not hear that. That would be news to me if that's true. So, okay, I just did a quick search and I can't find anything that Maruyama has said that Ainz is the last player. But, I mean, maybe. I don't know. That's more of just like kind of a theory thing, but you made me scared there because I was just like, did Maruyama say it? Because I haven't found anything, but if he did, or you guys have some sort of source for that, let me know in the comment sections below, because I don't want to miss out on something like that if that's actually what Maruyama said. Oh, actually, this question goes hand in hand with the last one. Well, now my question is, did all the players that entered from the new world come from Yggdrasil? Because if they did, then Ainz has to be the last one now that the servers are gone. Technically, Ainz doesn't have to be the last one if that theory that we have about them all being transported at the same time and scattered throughout the new world timeline is true. Then maybe there were a couple more players that got scattered in the timeline past where Ainz is. Possibly. So what you're saying isn't 100% true, unless I'm wrong about Maruyama saying that the Ainz is the last player to come in. There's just too many what ifs about the mechanics of how and when the transport happened and what actually went down with that. White Giguk doesn't exist. He can't hurt you. White Giguk. I'm assuming you're referring to me as White Giguk, which is weird because I'm not white. I mean, that's a funny comment though, but yeah, I'm not white, dude. Isn't there a special side story where Ainz leaves to set off fireworks before the shutdown and gets transported by himself, and at the end he learns of the tomb appearing? I think you're referring to the bonus volume of Overlord that's called The Vampire Princess of the Lost Country. I think that's what it's called. That volume was only released in Japan, so I don't think there's any sort of official translation for it. Also, it was only released for like a select few people, so I don't know where you can get it or where you can read it, but I think that's what you're referring to. Yeah, that's a side story that takes place in an alternate timeline where Ainz was transported by himself to the new world without Nazarick and all of them. From what I've heard, it's very, very interesting. So it's kind of a shame it was only released in Japan, but if I can get my hands on it at some point, I will. I will pay anything, name your price. So didn't read the light novel, but I have a guess on why most other players teleported alone without their base. Maybe it's because they weren't in their base at that moment. Yeah, that's entirely possible as to why that happened, but I've also recently come into some information about how like the Great Tomb of Nazarick worked. The throne itself of the Great Tomb of Nazarick was like an item that connected everything to like the throne was connected to all of Nazarick. And so a lot of people have said because Ainz was sitting on the throne and that like kind of is connected to everything in Nazarick, that's why Nazarick was transported as a whole. But then we also have the 8 Greed Kings guild base, which was transported with them as well, and we don't know I don't know how that one works exactly. It's all just theories. This is guesswork here. So that's interesting. I mean, it could be, yeah, they weren't in their guild bases or whatever. And we don't even know like if the 6 great gods were in a guild together. They could have just been, you know, party members or something like that. And then also, you know, the Minotaur Sage was a guy who just came by himself, and, you know, the 13 heroes, the guys, it was just 2 people. So, you know, it's a small amount of people most of the time. So, yeah, we can't really make any conclusions about that, but that's interesting to think about. Oh, this is an interesting personal question here. What's the origin of your username? What does Zorana Kiba mean, and where does it come from? So, actually, the origin of my name is kind of weird. I made the name up when I was a kid, and I was actually thinking of changing it soon. But the word Zoranic is actually a made-up word. I just created it myself. I wanted something unique, and so I made the word up by myself. I took the number 0 and I turned it into an adjective. That's kind of like how I envisioned 0 would be if you like made it into an adjective. And Kiba is the Japanese word for fang. And back then, like a lot of my theme of my channel was about wolves. Like I called us like the pack and stuff like that. So I just threw on Kiba as kind of like a homage to that theme. I was actually thinking of just changing my name to Zoranic and just dropping the Kiba, or coming up with a completely new name recently. I don't know if I'll actually do that or not. I might just change my name to Zoranic. But that was a fun question. Thanks for asking that. It's actually just I just came up with it on the spot. Ooh, here's a good question. Can Ainz make more NPCs in the new world? So actually, I don't think so. I think is the answer. Here's actually how NPCs and making NPCs worked in Yggdrasil, the game. So actually in Yggdrasil, there's different types of NPCs that existed. If you captured a castle level guild base, you were given 700 levels to make custom NPCs with. And so those levels are then what they use to create their NPCs. And Yggdrasil allowed this limit to be altered from 700 by the use of like cash shop items. You could make, change it with world items and stuff. And it's pretty obvious that they did something like that to increase the amount of levels that they could use to make NPCs, because, you know, just counting like some of the floor guardians off, you know, Albedo, Aura, Mare, Sebis, Cocytus, Demiurge, Shoutier, that's already 7 level 100 NPCs right there, and that's the cap. So clearly, because of all the custom NPCs there are, they did something using cash shop items, maybe a world item, to increase that level, the levels they could use to create NPCs. So I don't believe they have any more, so I don't think he could actually make like another custom NPC in the new world. There are NPCs being made by the guild base all the time. The guild base spawns NPCs that are used by Ainz and everyone in Nazarick. They're usually pretty weak, and also you can't change their appearance, you can't customize their programming, their AI isn't very good. There were just a lot of downsides to the spawned NPCs when compared to custom NPCs, because you could pretty much make whatever you wanted with custom NPCs. So if you're asking if he can make another person like Sebis or Shoutier or something, I believe the answer is no, but technically there are more NPCs being made by the Great Tomb of Nazarick itself. Ooh, here's an interesting question. Does Ainz ever mention he's from the same place as the other players, like the gods, kings, and heroes, or somebody at least assuming such? That is a good question. So, to my knowledge, the existence of players in Yggdrasil and stuff is not common knowledge amongst most of the population of the New World. The higher-ups of the Slain Theocracy are aware of them, clearly because they were discussing about the advent of the gods, but they don't really know the terminology player, I think, because they just view players as gods, because the 6 great gods were the founders of the Slain Theocracy and were the deities, and they were players. So they just equivalate players to gods. Members of the 13 heroes do know about those players, and that was shown by PDL knowing like the terms like player and NPC. When after he fought Ainz, he was using those terms. Evil Eye is also aware of players from certain comments that she's made in the light novel. So it's not like everyone in the New World knows about Yggdrasil players, but there are several people who do know about this and like what's going on, and like, oh yeah, there is this other world called Yggdrasil. There are groups of people throughout the new world that know about that stuff. Oh, this is a good question because I don't really know how to answer it. Is Ainz stronger than the Guardians? So, that is a tough question, man. So if you're just going off base stats, if we just look at numbers, nothing else, no, Ainz is weaker than the NPC Guardians. And that's because, you know, the NPC Guardians were designed to be able to fight multiple players at once. Like, that's just how games work. Like, you know, in most like MMOs and stuff, you're not gonna have a single dude fighting against a raid boss or anything like that. That's crazy, because NPC, you know, characters tend to have higher stats than player characters. Ainz's build wasn't really for PvP or stuff like that. He did a role-playing build. Like, he mostly focused on like instant death and necromancy and stuff. The summoning thing can work in certain situations, but like against Shalltear, it would have been horrible because of her pipette lance. But what made Ainz stronger and like allowed him to beat Shalltear and everything is that the NPCs are kind of restricted by their programming, at least at the beginning here. Like, Ainz manipulated Shalltear and feeding her false information about not knowing what her skills are. Oh, I'm still weak to holy magic, even though he wasn't. He compensated for his weakness to holy magic. And he was also using cash shop items and special items that he had collected throughout you know, his time in Yggdrasil. Ainz has access to all the weapons and items from his friends and stuff that, you know, in the NPCs pretty much are just given the items by, you know, Ainz. In a sense, yes, Ainz is stronger because he has more mental capacity and his access to items. The short answer is yes with a however, and the long answer is no with a but. So it's just kind of hard to say definitively either way. Basically, if we're talking base stats, no, Ainz is not stronger. If we're talking everything in, you know, a battle that could happen, yes, probably. Oh, this is asking about the opening. Who was Ainz standing with during the early part of the opening? Like, before they show Nazarick team. I think you're talking about like the first scene of the opening where it like zooms in on Ainz's eye and he like turns around and stuff. He's standing with all the members of Ainz Ulgon. I believe those are the other supreme beings. That's like the first time you can see like a whole lot of them all at once, I think in the Overlord anime. So that's cool that was in there, but I believe that's what they were. Still waiting for the Overlord pitch meeting parody. If you guys are familiar with the pitch meetings from Screen Rant, I did a couple parodies for Attack on Titan back then. The problem with those videos, man, is that they take a long time to make because you have to write it out, and then also I have to film 2 separate things, and then the editing is a nightmare on those. Like, those videos are actually very difficult to make. So I was thinking about doing one for Overlord though, so maybe we'll put it in the queue, but I got a few more things I want to do first before I start working on something like that. Ooh, did PDL fight Shalltear fully equipped? I mean, was Shalltear fully armored when facing him? If not, is PDL really as powerful as he says? Even though, yes, he is able to use wild magic, but players throughout time were able to kill many true Dragon Lords. So no, PDL was fighting a unequipped Shalltear. I believe she had her pipette lance, but she wasn't in her Valkyrie armor or anything. Their skirmish was very brief as well. They only fought for, you know, a few exchanges. But no, Shalltear was not fully decked out. Or she didn't have her world item either. So, and if she did, you know, she definitely would have beaten PDL. All right, we can end on this question. Is the armor of PDL a true representation of his power? And there's been some debate on this, but I think no. I think PDL is probably more powerful when he's fighting, you know, in his true body. You know, he mainly does the armor thing as a way to mask his identity. That's why, you know, he was doing it when he was in the 13 Heroes. I don't think the armor is a pure representation of PDL's power. I mean, very obviously, his physical abilities would just be much higher in his true body because, you know, he's a dragon, so he's just gonna have a much stronger body. I mean, I don't have a definitive 100% answer for you because PDL himself has never fought in the series to my knowledge, but what I think is no, the armor is weaker than like PDL would be if he actually fought like in his true body, but he likes to keep his identity hidden. That's the main reason why he keeps using the armor. So we'll leave off there. Once again, a lot of good questions just coming in from you guys. I love talking about this stuff, answering it. It's really kind of chill just to, you know, read these comments, answer these questions the best I can. And I'm not saying I'm a sage, guys. I know a lot about the Overlord series, but I don't know everything, okay? So, you know, and a lot of the stuff that you guys ask about hasn't been confirmed either. It's a lot of theory theories and, you know, talking about things like that could happen. So I can't guarantee every answer I give is going to be definitive, or it might not have some gaps in it, but I still find answering these questions the best I can and talking about this stuff with you guys very fun, and I hope you guys do too. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see another one, please hit that like button to let me know, and I will do it. If you guys want to build on any of the answers that I gave in this video, or you have any more questions of your own, leave them in the comment section below. I want to hear from you guys. And if you aren't already, please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out more than you know, and it'll let you know when I post in the future. With that being said, I want to thank you all for watching to the very end of the video, and I will see you all next time. Bye.